Hello everyone and welcome to this week's behind the scenes devlog video, and this week I'm going to be doing a load of work on the AI and movement of some of the animals. So it's Monday morning, but before I can get started with Equilinox this week, I actually need to finish off the next animation tutorial, and that's probably going to take the best part of the next 2 days, so I will see you when that is done. First up today, I've just been finishing off a few loose ends to do with the eating system, and I also fixed a bug where animals were able to get more hunger points than their maximum hunger points. And I've also just created a middle model stage for the orange tree. For the rest of the morning, I've just been creating the other model stages for this new tree, which I created last week, and I've just added it into the game, as you can see here, and also created the icon for it. Back to work now after a quick lunch, and this afternoon I'm going to be working on adding the butterfly into Equilinox. So I've just made a super simple caterpillar model, and I already had the butterfly model from a previous week. You might remember seeing it in another video. And the first thing that I have to do is obviously to create a flying movement for them, because at the moment they're just using the guinea pig's movement. So I finished the first part of the very basics of the butterfly movement, so you can see that they kind of float towards the ground, and then when they get a certain height above the ground, they kind of push back upwards and then float down again. So do the caterpillars at the moment, which is a little bit weird, but let's not worry too much about that yet. So yeah, now I'm just going to make this movement a little bit more natural, try and make it a bit more interesting as well, and hopefully it will end up looking pretty good. So I've been doing a bit more work on the butterfly movement, which I think is coming along nicely, and it's starting to look a little bit more realistic. Sometimes they do seem to crash, like this one here, and then just wobble around on the floor for a bit, so that's something that I need to fix. But other than that, everything seems to be working quite well, so I'm going to move on to the caterpillar movement. It is 7 o'clock, I've just made myself some rather boring dinner tonight, just some fish and vegetables. But before that, I did get the caterpillar movement working, so you can see that they now crawl around on the ground until they're old enough to turn into butterflies. And I know there should be another stage in there when they're in their chrysalis or cocoon, one of those, but I think this is okay for now. To start off the day today, I've been working on giving the butterflies some purpose in life, so the fruit trees now actually get a boost to their productivity when they have butterflies or any other insect around them. So you can see that these orange trees here are producing many more oranges than they usually would, and obviously I've exaggerated it a bit for the video, but you can see that they're producing many more oranges than these trees over here, which don't have any insects around them. Next up today, I've created an upgrade that you can purchase with DP, and this will actually increase the boost that the fruit trees get to their productivity from having insects around them, and I'm just about to create the icon for this. It is 11:30 and I've just finished making the icon for the butterfly itself and also for that insect upgrade. And now I'm just having a bit of egg because I'm hungry, and I'm just deciding which task I'm going to do next. So I decided that the next thing that I'm going to work on is bees, and I've been wanting to add bees into the game for quite a while now because they're going to have quite a few interesting abilities. So for example, the bees are going to be able to create hives and produce honey, and they're also going to be able to damage other animals by stinging them. To finish off the morning, I was just planning out some of these new bee features and working out how I'm going to implement the bees movement, but now I'm just stopping for a bit of lunch, and then afterwards I'll get started with implementing the features. So I've just finished work on the basic bee movement, as you can see here. So when the bee starts moving, it takes off from the ground, and when it reaches a certain height it starts cruising around like this, and when the bee stops moving it floats down to the ground so that it can land on stuff. So that's the basic movement done, and next I'm going to move on and implement some of the more interesting features. So I'm starting work on the beehive building functionality now, and firstly I've created some model stages for the beehive model, and I've also just added it into the game, but at the moment it can't grow, so it's only the first model stage that shows in the world, and it doesn't really do much at the moment. So it's 5 o'clock in the evening now, and I've just been working on a build component which will allow entities like the hive to be built. So you can see that the hive now has a build progress, and if we have a look at the hive information, you can see that the total number of build points that it needs to be fully built is 200, and don't worry about it being classified as a rock. So obviously the bees are going to be the ones that actually build the hive, but I haven't implemented that yet, so for now I just have to click on this button here, and as I build the hive, you'll notice that the build progress goes up, and you can also see that the size of the hive is actually increasing, and it is now fully built. So I'm going to take a bit of a break now. I need to go to the shops to get some food for dinner because I'm cooking for 3 people today, and then when I get back I'm going to get to work on allowing the bees to actually build the hive. So I have now finished implementing the hive building functionality of the bees. So every now and again the bees will search for a nearby hive, and if they can't find one, they'll create a new one like this bee has just done here. And to start with, the hives have 0 build points, but then every time a bee visits the hive, which they do fairly often, it will gain some new build points. So the bees are basically building the hive, and the bees will keep visiting, so over time the hive will get more and more build points, and eventually the hive will be fully built. So that's pretty much everything I'm going to get done today. I'll do some more work on this tomorrow morning, but for now I need to get started with cooking. Getting back to work on the hive building stuff this morning, and the first thing that I'm going to do is to tidy up the code a bit, because one thing that often happens when I get a little bit excited about programming something is that I start hard coding in a lot of the values just so that I can see it working quicker. So I'm just going to tidy that up, make it all a bit more generic, and then maybe other entities will be able to use the same code in the future to build things like nests, for example. So the builder component is all now nice and tidy and flexible, and I now load up the information about which model gets built and how many build points are given per visit from the species files, so different species can build different things at different rates, and you can see information about that in the species information GUI. And I've also been making sure that one group of bees will only ever create and work on one hive, so if I remove this hive from the world, you'll see that they all start work on the same new hive instead of creating multiple hives. But if you do have a big group of many bees, like I've got over here, you can see that they do actually create multiple hives. Just very quickly had a go at trying to make the hive model look a little bit more hive-like, so I've changed the colour and I've slightly altered the model as well, trying to make the shape look a bit more, like a hive, and I think it's a bit of an improvement. It is 11 o'clock now, and I've just been doing some work on giving the bees the ability to feed from flowers. So I've given them an eating component, and when they get hungry, they'll search for some flowers and land on them, and then they'll be able to feed from them. And they get hungry pretty quickly, so they need to land on flowers quite often, but unlike other animals, they don't actually use up any resources when they eat. So as long as there are some flowers around, they'll be fine. Just been doing a couple of other little things to finish off the morning. So I've been working on the hive models and preparing them for when I implement the honey producing mechanic. I also just fixed a bug to do with entity AIs interrupting each other, and now I'm stopping for some lunch. So I've added the new model stages into the game, but at the moment they're just being controlled by the build component, just like all the other model stages. So now I'm going to work on creating basically a honey producing component, which will allow the hive to produce honey, and also it will allow other animals to take honey from the hive. So I have now finished implementing the basic honey producing functionality of the hive, and you can see that the hive now has a honey content value, and every time that a bee visits the hive, this honey content value will increase. So there's a bee visiting it now, so in a second you'll see it go up, and as the honey content goes up, the model stages change to make it look like there's more honey coming out of the hive until it reaches max capacity. And I can also simulate an animal taking honey from the hive by choosing this take honey option. And you can see that that makes the honey content go down, and the model stages change as well to make it look like there's less honey now. Just finished implementing the final bit of functionality for the hive, which is that it now decays after not being visited by bees for a certain amount of time. So if all the bees die out for some reason, or you move the hive to an area where there are no bees, after a while it will just fade out and be removed from the world because it's not being used by any bees anymore. For the rest of the afternoon, I've just been tidying up a few things in preparation for this month's Patreon release, which is going to be on Sunday. So I've been going through some of the shop prices and just tweaking them, trying to balance them a bit, make the game a little bit more challenging. I've also been adding a few more tasks. I just finished creating this new tree, and I've just started work on editing this behind the scenes devlog video. But I need to stop now because I'm going out to dinner. I'm going to my favourite sushi restaurant today, and then later some friends are coming round to the flat, so I need to tidy up a bit. Good morning everyone, it is Saturday morning, and today I'm just going to be editing this video together. So that's pretty much going to be it for Equilinox this week. Next week I'll be working a bit more on the engine. I need to do some of that because I haven't done that in a while, and I'm sure I'll also add a few more exciting creatures into the game. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.